All right, so welcome everybody once again to our DevTalk for the month of August. Today we're going to be talking about building a no-code e-commerce app using Back4App's new ChatGPT plugin. I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance to use it yet, but a lot of people have been using it, and we've been getting a lot of great feedback about it. That's why we wanted to get everybody together and talk a little bit about the plugin as well as a real life example. So Alex is going to walk us through a real life example of how to use it. So sometimes the plugin, because of ChatGPT itself, it might take a little bit long. Sometimes it goes quick, and a lot of errors sometimes come up. So if errors come up, that is actually a good thing, so we can work them out because everything is not a field of roses and sunshine. So how we're going to work today is we're just going to do exactly what I just said. We're going to talk a little bit about the plugin. Alex is going to go through a little bit of technical aspects of the plugin, how it works, and then he's going to do a complete walkthrough with you guys, including the prompts, which is very important. A lot of people have been asking us for the prompts for ChatGPT. So Alex is going to walk you through the prompt, his thought process on creating the prompts, so you guys know exactly what to expect when you guys do try it out. So a little bit about the plugin. The plugin, it was released just a couple of weeks ago, and last week already did an update for it. And the goal here for the plugin is to help everybody, regardless of the tech, coding, or dev expertise, to turn everyday natural language into all types of mobile apps and web apps. Okay, so if you have absolutely no idea how to code, don't worry, this plugin is for you. And also, if you're already an experienced developer, perfect. This plugin is also great for you because it's going to help you out a lot with the workflow and save you a lot of time. And getting started with the plugin, it's very, very simple. It's pretty much 3 basic steps. All you have to do is install the plugin in your ChatGPT. You give it access to your Back4App account, and then you just start prompting using common everyday language. Like I said, it's very, very simple prompts that make it work. And that's one of the great things about the plugins, which is something that we wanted to do. So this first version of the plugin. Oh, hi, Allison.
Hello, guys.
Hi, Allison. Yeah, we're just talking a little bit about the plugin, and then Alex is going to get started showing everybody how to actually use it. So, like I said a little bit ago, this is the first version of the plugin, and we've been already getting a lot of positive feedback from users because of what it can do. But just to give you guys a little spoiler, we have a new version of the plugin coming out. So it's going to be the second version. And get ready, because this second version is going to blow this first version out of the water. So make sure, nothing that I forgot to tell you guys last time, make sure you guys go on Product Hunt and follow our page on Product Hunt, because we're going to be doing all of our launches there. So you guys get to see it first and you guys can be the first ones to use it. Okay? So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Alex so he can do what we're all here to do, which is show us exactly how the plugin works and all of the information regarding the plugin. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, hello everyone. Can you hear me all right? Good.
Yep, we can hear you.
So, here to explore, this is the first webinar that will use the Back4App plugin for ChatGPT in the newest version, which is just amazing. I'm quite impressed by what this plugin can do, and hopefully it will impress you all as well. So, as Gus said, this involves installing and authorizing the plugin, and I'm going to share my screen and show you how to achieve that. But have in mind that you need access to the plugins in ChatGPT. This usually, but not always, means to have a paid ChatGPT account. I know many beta users and invited users that have access to plugins, But for most people, if you don't see the plugin store in your account, it means you need to buy a plan in ChatGPT or OpenAI in order to have access to this, okay? So let's share my screen, window, and there you go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Good. So as you can see, I have the plugin already enabled here. And if you don't see the plugin, but you do have a paid account or at least an account in OpenAI that has access to plugins, you need to select the GPT-4 model. And here on your account, you have to open it, go to Settings and Beta, open beta features, and enable plugins. This will give you access to the plugin store where you can go over here and chat and look for Back4App. This will automatically install the plugin for you, and the plugin will ask for authorization to access your Back4App account. You have to authorize, or unless the plugin will not be able to operate your account. So remember, you need to accept the plugin to operate your account in order to be able to use it. And if you can see it into this small drop-down list over here, it means it is installed and it's working. And there are a few ways to work with this plugin. And believe me, I have been using this extensively during my work, not only because it does a lot of things very well done, but also because it allows me to break my tasks in smaller tasks and open multiple tabs, ask each tab to do one task for me and go do something else. And when I come back, I just gather all the codes from all the windows and put it all together. And 99% of the time, it just works. So as I said before, we have this few ways to use the plugin. And if you follow the channel on YouTube, you probably noticed that I try most of the time to write one single big prompt that solves the problem with just one request. So I just put a lot of text in there, send it all, and wait for the response, and it just works. But when I use it on my daily basis, I don't use it like that, because for the YouTube videos, the idea is to show you how you can achieve your results prompting very little. But on the usually day-to-day tasks, I determined that it's much better for the end result if you split into multiple prompts as a conversation, so you can guide and get ChatGPT to achieve exactly what you're looking for. If you try it all at once with just one big prompt, it might get where you want to get, but if it doesn't, it just spent a lot of typing and got no good response. But if you try to break it into smaller, simpler, and well-defined tasks, the chances are that at the very end, you're going to achieve exactly what you want. So here I have ChatGPT on the GPT-4 model with the Back4App plugin enabled, and here I have my personal Back4App account where I have a few apps. Those are my personal apps. The S&P 500 is the one that I've been using to record the videos for the channel. And the first step is uh, to create a new app in here so we can do our videos today. So let's start by creating our e-commerce app. So please, and by the way, I always use please, but you don't really have to. If you just give it an instruction, it will do the same. But for some reason, I always ask it with please. In my Back4App account, create a new app named eCommerce. Enter, and this will bring the plugin alive, as you will see in a small green box that showed up here. You can expand this green box. These are the iteration boxes of the plugin, and it will show you the requests being done to Back4App and all the responses being retrieved from it. So if you are more like a technical guy and want to understand the operations being done, exactly the data structures that are being transited between ChatGPT and Back4App, you can expand this. Now, if you're not a technical person, if you're just someone who wants to build an app and you don't have the programming skills to do it, and you don't know anything about cloud code or data structures, you really don't have to expand this. I try to expand it most of the time so I can see exactly what's happening behind the scenes, but it will work just the same if you don't. So as you can see, it sent a request to create a new app with the app name is eCommerce, and it got a response. So I have my app ID, my app name, the dashboard for parse, API URL, REST key, JavaScript key, client key, .NET key, public web hosting URL that is not activated yet. And all this information is useful if you're going to write some code based on this app that was newly created. But if you're going to use ChatGPT, it's pretty irrelevant to keep all this data by yourself, as ChatGPT has the record for it and it will know exactly how to use. So let's see our newest created app. So I will just refresh the screen. And there you go, here is my e-commerce app. If we go to the dashboard, it will probably have the default classes created, but everything else will be empty. So I have the role class and the user class, which are created by default by parse, and I have my sample main.js file with some sample code all commented, so we have an empty app correctly created. So the first step for having our e-commerce app, and once again, you can break it into multiple steps, and it doesn't really matter the order you're going to execute those steps, as long as you remember that you need to implement first the things that you're going to use first. So I cannot really implement code A that needs code B if I don't have code B to be called from code A. So it's important to determine the order where the resources from the app will be done, so you can have it done when you need to use it. Now, if you write just one big prompt, the plugin is smart enough to decide by itself the order that should be done. But once again, I myself don't like to do that in my daily basis, because many times I write a lot of text and don't get exactly what I wanted. So for this app today, I will start by creating the categories for my products in my e-commerce, because when I want to start recording my products into the app, I want to separate them by categories. And if I don't have the categories, it will be harder for me to register. So into this app, create and no, I'll try something different here. If I was acting like a programmer, I would probably ask it to create a class named categories where I would store the categories. But I want to show you that the plugin also works for those of you who are not developers. So I'll try to avoid some technical questions, some technical prompts as much as I can to show you how the plugin can figure out the structure that is needed to hold what I'm asking for. So create a data structure. Remember, if I was a programmer, I would say a class, but let's say how it behaves with this, to hold the categories of products. A category is a name and an example and a few examples. It's always give it a few examples to work with, so we can have more data to decide on what is going to be stored. If you give it just one, and for instance, you send a number, it might define that all categories should be numbers. And many times those are not, this is not true. And so if you give it multiple examples, it has more data to decide the correct data type. So a category is a name, and a few examples of categories are, so I have here health, what else? Books, games, tools, cell phones, shoes, bestsellers, and clothes. After you create the data structure to hold categories, and this is also very cool because you can ask the plugin to populate the classes for you. So please populate the it with at least 10 distinct categories. Now, I think this is good enough to go. Let's try it out. Once again, let's open up and inspect what's being sent. So it created a post method to the classes / category. So it determined that the data structure to hold a category ideally would be a class. And in here, it's already started filling up the categories, the sample categories that I wanted. So we have health, books, games, tools, cell phones, shoes. It actually took the ones that I put as example and added a few other ones such as electronics and home appliances. There we go. The response was successful. So let's check our app. I go to the database and we need to refresh this to get the latest schema. And for some reason, the categories didn't show up. Let's understand why. Yep, it just didn't show up. So let's see why. All right, I understood it had a successful response. So this is the oh, it is still creating. So it created the data structure in the plugin, and it's out actually executing it right now. There we go. So it was an issue with the creation of category class. This happens from time to time. Sometimes it has issues trying to create some structures, and it will automatically try to redo it by itself. So the category already exists. It will try to populate it. If I just refresh it here now. Oh, there you go. It finally showed up. And it created a name property, which is a string. So it decided the best structure to hold the name is a string, which is correct. And it will now start posting some categories in there. And there you go. It should be a few categories created in there. There you go. We have shoes, health, clothes, bestsellers, books, electronics, home appliances, games, cell phones, and tools. So let's just refresh it all to ensure the latest schema was taken. So I have 10 records, which is exactly what I asked for. So now I have categories to work with. The second data structure that I want to use is the products themselves. And I want to break those products into multiple categories. So for instance, if I have a tennis shoe, I want it to be in the shoes category. I don't want the tennis shoes to be attached, for instance, to the games category. And let's try to put that once again with a few examples so it can identify the best way to create the class, the best properties to hold the data that I want to hold into the product, and also attach the correct categories to it. So let's prompt to create a few products. That looks good. Also, something that I learned over time is that it's good to give ChatGPT a good, a positive feedback when it gets the correct result that you want. This will ensure it keeps on the same path and does not try to implement other solutions since these ones are working. Now, many times it tries different approaches if you don't tell it worked correctly. So it could, for instance, try to use different methods or actual different calls to the API to achieve the results. But once I say that this looks good or this was done correctly, it will try to use the same approach once again, even if the data structure is different. Now, let's create once again, I'll try to not use technical language here, data structure to hold products. Now let's define to ChatGPT what a product is. A product record should have, let's say, a name. So I have a product name, a description, a price, and a sold quantity. An example of a product would be name. Let's say iPhone. Description. A cell phone made by Apple. A price. How much is an iPhone today? I don't even know. Let's say $500. And let's actually put some cents as well, so it knows it's not an integer number, but a floating point. So 500, 559. And sold quantity, say 10. Now, I need to specify that a product should be attached to a category. And there is two ways to do this. We can attach the cell phone to the category, or we can attach the category to the product. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if you're going to look for a category and list all the items, you can use one way. Or if you're into an item and want to know to which category that item belongs, it will be another way. But I'll let ChatGPT define the best structure for this and see if it does it right. Or I can even have both. I can have one link to the other in a cross match, so I can find both the product from the category or the category from the product. So a product should belong to a category. So when I filter by categories, I can find the products that belong to that category. We could specify more than one category for the items. So for instance, this cell phone could be into cell phones and also into, let's say, smartphones or any other, perhaps electronics. But for simplicity, we're going to use just one today. So I can find the products that belong to that category. So when I select a specific category, I should be able somehow to find all products that belong to that category. Now, I think this is good enough. Perhaps I should tell the iPhone case should belong to the cell phones category. For the given example, the product named iPhone should belong to the cell phones category. And let's once again, I'll ask it to populate with at least 10 examples. So after you create this data structure, please populate it with at least, let's say, 20 samples of data. Perhaps we should put 20 full examples of data, so it won't, for instance, put the name and the price, but forget about the description. Hopefully this will work. Let's try once again. Now, once again, from my experience, this takes some back and forth talking to ChatGPT. Many times I have to delete data and delete the class and ask it to create once again because it doesn't really reflect what I wanted. You got to remember the AI is super intelligent and it's most of the times able to understand what you're looking for and provide a good solution. But many times, if you don't really specify the very details of what you're trying to achieve, or perhaps if you're saving some details to give it later on during your prompts, it will perform some actions that don't really reflect what you want. So a good practice is to try it out, and once it finishes this whole step, to check if it really reflects what you're looking for. So let's expand uh, our calls from the plugin and see what's trying to do. So it's going to create a post call to the product class. So it's going to be called product. It will have a name, which is a string, a description, which is a string, price, which is a number correctly identified, and sold quantity, also a number correctly identified. And it's going to hold the category into the product, not the product into the category. Oh, my camera just flicked. Come on. Oh, I'm back. So let's see what's doing right now. So it's creating the sample data. From here, I can see, for instance, it's going to create into the product class a product named Vitamin C, which is a supplement for immune system, which costs 10 monies, and it's sold over 200 quantities. And it's going to be into the category with this object ID over here. It seems I have some API syntax error. And once again, this can happen from time to time, but most of the times it will try to fix it by itself. Now, from my experience, this kind of errors happen mostly when I ask it to populate with too much data. So if you ask for like 3, 4, or even 10 examples of data, it usually works quite all right. But if you ask for too many, and I've tried this with quite a few ones, uh, it can end up breaking the structure of the API call and having some errors. But you don't have to really worry about it, as it will try to fix it by itself. Now, as you can see, it works quite well, but it takes some time. All this that's written on the screen right now, it's being written in the plugin, so it's not in Back4App yet. It will create the whole response in the plugin first and then send it to Back4App. So while it is creating the response, is taking a little bit of time. And this is why I like to open multiple tabs and ask for different tasks in each tab so they can all work in parallel. And at the very end, when I finish my coffee, I just come back and get everything that I want at once. So it seems it worked. Let's see which examples it created. So it created 11 ones, and it will create the other ones to make the 20 I asked for, probably because it tried to create 20 and broke the API. So it broke it into multiple requests. So I have a toaster, some sneakers, yoga mat, gaming mouse.
Hey, Alex, while that's ChatGPT is formulating the answer for us, I just launched a poll that Allison created. So everyone can see it and give us a quick answer so we can work to improve not only the plugin, but also our future events.
So I see there is a question from Maury Luron. Is only ChatGPT 4 offers the plugin options? Unfortunately, yes. The plugins is done only is usable only in the ChatGPT, the model 4. So you need to have access to that, unfortunately. So it seems my response stopped, and this also can happen from time to time. Now let's see how many it created. So I have product. Oh, it actually created the whole 20. Many times I find it breaks like this, but it actually worked all the way through. It just didn't finish with a beautiful text like this. But it did work. So now we have our products and our categories. And if you follow the channel, you probably saw that you can now consume this data from Back4App from within the plugin for ChatGPT. So for instance, let's ask for the price of the gaming mouse and try to check the category to which it belongs. So from this app, tell me how much a gaming mouse costs and in which category it is. So you can also see the query that's building to get the response that I asked. So the gaming mouse costs 45 and belongs to the games category. Let's check back there. There is gaming mouse. There you go. So 45. It is correct. And this is very useful if you have, for instance, a application that consumes the ChatGPT API in the front end. We have had many clients who try to implement some kind of artificial intelligent hosts into their apps so you can talk to the app like you're talking with a human. And this feature, this plugin allows you to persist the data in Back4App and consume from your front end through ChatGPT, which is really amazing because instead of having this complex front end, my cat, complex front end with lots of buttons and filters, you could just put a text box where the user prompts where what the user wants as a response, like I did asking for the gaming mouse, and the plugin will connect to Back4App, gather the data, and retrieve it back. So it simplifies by quite a lot the design of your front end. So now we got our products and we got our categories. We can now add some reviews to it. So that also looks good. Remember, positive feedback makes it work in the same way for the next calls. Now let's create a data structure to hold some reviews about the products. A product should be able to have many reviews about it. A review should have a title, a description, text, and a number of stars between 1 and 5, telling how good the product is. A bad product should have 1 star, while a very good one should have 5. Once you create the data structure for it, please fill it up with at least 2 reviews for, let's say, 5 random products that you choose of your choice. Let's see how it behaves. Now my cat's opening the window. There we go. So let's see what it's trying to do. It's going to start by creating the review class to store the data. It will have the title as a string, the description also as a string, the stars as a number, which is all correct. And let's see the sample data it's going to use for that. So it's reviewing the iPhone for the first test review. So this will be amazing performance. The iPhone has exceeded my expectations and have a 5 stars review. The second one is for our running shoes that will also have 5 stars. We have a average quality for other shoes, which has 3 stars. And this will go on. Hopefully I didn't ask for too much data so it won't break the API format.
Alex, I have a question here for you. This is a question that I got through one of our direct message, and it's asking, what should I take into account when prompting for the plugin? Are there any special tips or tricks that you use?
Yes, and if you follow the YouTube channel, there is a video about that, only about how to prompt the plugins, not actually the plugin, but ChatGPT. And most of the data of that video applies for the plugin as well. So you want to be very specific to what you ask the plugin or ChatGPT to do, so it does not have the chance to misinterpret what you're trying to say. So you want to be very specific, very clear about your instructions, and always try to give it a good example of data that you're trying to hold, because this will allow the plugin to have some information instead of trying to decide by itself what you're trying to record into the classes. Now, once that is done, and by the way, this is something that I didn't do today, is to give ChatGPT a task. So when you give it a task, you reduce the number of options it has to work with. So if I told it, your task is to build a e-commerce app, it will reduce the whole scope of being a AI bot to just being a bot that is able to write code that ends up being a e-commerce app. So I think this covers most of the cases. Try to give it a specific task. Try to be very descriptive in your prompt so it cannot misinterpret what you're trying to say. Try to give it as many examples of data that you can, so it has more data to work with and understand better what you're trying to say, and reinforce positive feedback, because it will allow it to follow on the same path instead of trying new things every time you prompt. Good. So there you go. It seems our reviews are created. So let's go back to Back4App, refresh everything, and see how it worked. And my mouse just lost its battery for some reason. There you go. So I do have 10 categories, 20 products, and a few reviews over here. So most products are good. The least favorite one has only 3 stars. Now, I think the data structure is quite basic, but it already works for what we want. And one of the best things about the latest version of the plugin is that it can now create cloud code. And for those of you who are not familiar with cloud code is JavaScript code that runs from our servers, from Back4App servers, instead of your devices. And when you implement your business logic as cloud code instead of in the device, you end up having many benefits. For instance, if you change something in your app and the logic is in the front end, you need to redeploy it to the app stores, mostly for Google and Apple. And this process can take a lot of time because they have to review and republish your app. Now, if you do a front end that only consumes data, and if you need to change the logics of your app and you do it in cloud code, you don't have to republish anything. The front end will be the same for all users. They don't have to update the app. You don't have to resend the app for review. You just republish cloud code and it will automatically start working on all the devices. Another benefit is that running cloud code, when you run cloud code, it runs from our servers, which are huge machines that you probably never seen in your life, such as 48 processors, a few gigabytes of RAM, petabytes of disks, and those machines are very, very, very fast. So when you execute a query into the backend as cloud code, it executes much faster than trying to fetch the data from the front end. Also, when you implement cloud code instead of querying from the front end, you end up with very little payload because you can resolve all the dependencies in the backend and deliver only the very final result to the front end, which is a very small piece of data. Now, if you want, for instance, to generate a report that has 1,000 lines and you're interested in just one line of this 1,000, if you execute in cloud code, you only retrieve one line. But if you want to execute the report in the front end, you have to retrieve the 1,000 lines to select the one that you want. So this is why most of the times when you have the skills to build cloud code, we encourage you to use cloud code as much as possible. It makes your application much faster to run, much cheaper to run, more scalable over time, and you don't have to republish after every update that you do in the front end. Now, this used to be a problem some time ago because many people don't know how to code cloud code. But the last version of the plugin, which is already published into ChatGPT, has the ability to create cloud code for you. So now all you have to do is to ask it to create and tell exactly what it should retrieve, and it will be done for you. So let's try to create some cloud code. So this too looks very good. Now let's create some cloud code. Please create a cloud code function that retrieves, let's say, 10 products that has the most cells. Hopefully it will understand. Once you create such cloud code, publish it to Back4App. Now, this is especially something where you want to be extra descriptive and give it as much as information as you can, because in my experience, I always was able to retrieve the records that I was looking for, but most of the times I couldn't do it with just one prompt, mostly because I left some things to be interpreted by the plugin and by ChatGPT instead of specifically telling all the operations I needed to be done to retrieve what I wanted. So this usually takes some back and forth, but once again, it is worth doing so because it makes your app faster and cheaper to run over time. So let's see what it is trying to do. So it's going to create a function named get top selling products. Cloud Code changes were successfully deployed. So let's take a look at it. I come to my main.js file, and probably need to refresh to get the latest version. There you go. It created a get top selling products. This will create a product object based on the product class. It will create a query for this object. It will then create a descending query, and it will order it descendingly by the sold quantity, which makes total sense. If I have a product that's sold most, it will be on the top of this query. So this would retrieve all my products with the top selling ones on the top. But then it limited the result to 10, which is exactly what I asked it to. So I will order everything from top to bottom, top selling in the top, and then get the limit of 10. So let's try it out. API console. We need to change my cat open the door method to post and type functions slash and then the cloud code name. Let's try to get it. It is get topping selling products. Post functions slash, paste that in, and send query. And there we go. The product that sells the most into my e-commerce is vitamin C, which has 200 units sold. Then we have the t-shirt, which has 150, and then we have the novel, which has 120, and so goes on until our last is the LED TV, which sold only 50. So this cloud code function worked quite well. Let's try to get another one with some data related to it. Let's see how it behaves. So that once again looks good. Now write a cloud code function that gets a random product and all the reviews for it. Retrieve all this information in the response. And guys, I'll ask you to give me just 1 second. I have a phone call that I need to take. I really need to. It's my wife, and my kid is not feeling very well. I'll be back in a second, okay? Guess if you can take for just like 2 minutes.
Yep, not a problem. Let me see one of the questions here. This question is actually very common. A lot of people, every time we do an event, or people always ask me via email and sometimes even during chat. I think one of the most common questions that is this question people ask. I also seen a lot in a lot of forums, people asking, do you think that these AI advancements are going to eventually take developers' jobs away? This is very common. People have been asking about this, not only about developer's job, but every type of job out there in the market. And in my opinion, there's no way AI is going to take developers' jobs away or most jobs away. What I think is going to happen is people that know how to use AI, people that know how to use these tools, are the ones that are going to be more prominent, and everybody that didn't evolve within this matter are going to get left behind. It's the same thing, for example, when Google came out. Everyone thought it was something that was going to take people's jobs away. I kind of just revealed my age, but it's the same thing. If you know how to use the tool, you're going to be relevant. If you don't know how to use it, it's something that it's not. You're not going to be relevant in the market anymore. And that's anything with regarding coding and programming. The more you evolve, the better off you guys are going to be in the market, and the more relevant you're going to be. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat here what do you guys think about this question, about if you think AI is going to be taking people's jobs away, or is it something that is just another tool that is revolutionizing the way we work, just like other tools out there in the market?
Hey, I'm back. I'm sorry for this. It was a message from the school of my kid, but everything is all right now. So, I see we have a question. You were saying something, Gus?
Yeah, we have two questions, really. One is saying, so does all cloud code function use post request?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Can you repeat?
It's in that chat box, and it's saying, does all cloud code function use a post request?
I guess so. I never tried with get. Get is usually to retrieve data from the classes. So I assume if you try to call Cloud Code with a GET request, it will not respond. We can try this out, but I'm pretty sure it will not respond. So let's try to change to GET and run once again. Yeah, it won't respond if you try with GET.
Okay, another question here is, will you guys make these prompts available after the event?
Yes, we will create a Gist repository with the whole content. I'm going to copy and paste everything in, and it will be available to all of you. And I see we have one open Q&A. So Vander Core. But by doing Cloud Code, then you pay for the processing time there. While doing at user's device, then maybe the cheaper if you grow too much the user base. A trade-off. This is a misconception because we don't charge for the time that you are executing things in Back4App. We charge by the API requests. So if you make one API request to the backend to retrieve a Cloud Code function, that counts as one API request. And if from the front end you send a query to retrieve the data so you can process in the front end, that also counts as one request. So if you can make your, let's say, your report with just one request to the class and just one request to the Cloud Code, it will cost the same. And remember, we have very flexible plans, and most of our free plans fit small to medium-sized apps. So most of the times, you are able to run for free in Back4App. Either you use Cloud Code or query directly on the classes. Now, I understand, and remember, I have a lot of experience in this. We have over 200,000 applications running in Back4App. So believe me when I say, if you can implement your code as Cloud Code, your application will be cheaper to run over time, especially if your user base grows. Most of our big clients implement Cloud Code, and it works like a charm. It makes our app faster, cheaper to run over time. So it's a misconception that running it on Cloud Code makes it more expensive. And also you have the flexibility to work with NPM modules, which can accelerate your development time by quite a lot. So Cloud Code is flexible, is reliable, it's secure, it's fast, and can make your app cheaper to run over time. Okay?
And now can be generated with everyday language, right?
That's true. That's right too. Now with the ChatGPT plugin for Back4App, you can now create it from the ChatGPT as well. So there are lots of benefits to work with Cloud Code. Until a few weeks back, a major drawback of Cloud Code was that many people don't know how to create it, but that's not an excuse anymore. So if you can go through Cloud Code, you really should.
Yeah,
All right.
great. One other question someone asked, Alex, is which operations are also supported by the plugin?
I'm sorry, can you repeat, please?
Which operations are supported by the plugin?
All right. So the operations are changing every day. Davi, our CEO, is always adding new operations to Cloud Code, to the plugin. So the easiest way for you to find out what you can do with the plugin is to go to the ChatGPT with the plugin enabled and ask which operations can I do with this plugin. And it will list all supported operations. And remember, Davi is publishing new versions of the plugin regularly. So we always have small increments on the number of supported features. And even if you don't see a feature that you would like to use, try to send the command to ChatGPT with the plugin enabled to try to do it, because many times it won't be able to do with a single operation, but it can break into multiple operations and end up solving the problem for you. So I really recommend that you try this out and check this list constantly because it's always changing. Let's close this one. There we go. We have another question from Vandercore. I hope I'm spelling your name correctly. So in terms of security, then sending data to process in a cloud code, how you protect the user data as example. So cloud code was created with security in mind from day one. It automatically extracts the user that is executing that cloud code from the request. And remember, the request should always be translated through HTTPS, so it's always encrypted. And the traffic inside the Back4App data centers is also encrypted. So it goes encrypted from the front-end device all the way through the internet until the data center. Into the data center, it transits encrypted as well, and all the data extractions, especially the user, is taken from the request. So you don't really have to pass anything in. Let me go back to Back4App really quickly so I can show you how to extract the user. So if you have a new function, let's say parse cloud.define my function. And this will take an async request that I will arrow function to my code. And this is the basic structure for a Cloud Code function. And if I want to extract the user who ran this function from the front end, all I have to do is something like this. Const user equals request.user. And there you go. The user variable will extract from the request the user that called the function, and it will be a parse user object. So you don't really have to do any kind of implementation in order to extract the user. It's all built in and it's all very, very secure. Right? So let's refresh this so I don't mess up the code. Now let's try something more difficult, see how it works. Back to my chat. Let's say I want to get the products which have the best reviews. So this would need to get two distinct classes. I will need to check the products and check the reviews attached to those products, which has a pointer to the product themselves. So let's see if it's smart enough to understand this connection and retrieve the data for me without me having to guide it too much. So once again, positive feedback. This worked like a charm. Now let's write another cloud code function that retrieves the products that people really like. Please write a function that retrieves, and let me check the class once again, see how many we have. Let's try to get all the products that have 5 stars. Is that okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 products which has 5 stars. All products details that have 5-star reviews. Now, this is a more complex one. It will have to understand the connection that exists between products and reviews and retrieve those back.
All right, Alex, in the meantime, let me ask you another question regarding Cloud Code. I was asked, can I upload my own projects to the Cloud Code?
If by your own projects you mean your own Cloud Code, yes, you can. And there is 2 ways you can do that. You can go to code section and put it inside the cloud folder. You can just click new file if you want to create it from here, or upload file if you want to upload from your machine. It will be deployed to Back4App and start working as soon as the upload finishes. But remember, it must be into the cloud folder. I see people putting the cloud code into the public folder, and the public folder is aimed to static content only. So it should have the index files, the HTML files, JavaScript files, CSS files, and things like that. Even image files can be hosted in here. But cloud code must specifically be into the cloud folder. This is one way to upload. Another way is to use the Back4App command line interface that automates the sending of code from your computer to Back4App. This is very useful if you have very complex cloud code with multiple folder structures and multiple files in it. So instead of having to come here and manually create the cloud, the folder structure and manually drag and drop files around, you can put it all into one folder and tell the CLI to upload it for you. So if you want to know more about that, all you have to do is to look for Back4App space CLI, and it will go directly to the manual of installation of the CLI. You have to configure it, but it's very, very easy to do. And once it's configured, you will be able to push your code to Back4App without any issues. Right, so let's take a look here. So we have a cloud code publisher named Get 5-Star Products. Let's see if it works. Let's first see if it's here. So Get 5-Star Products. It's going to give to extend 2 classes this time, which is expected, the review class and the product class. Then it's going to make a query into the review class looking for everything that looks with 5 stars. With this in mind, it will try to get the object ID. Let's see, this is interesting. So it's going to match the object ID of the products that matches the first query. and then it will try to fetch the product itself. So let's run it and try to see how it works. So API console. Oh, I didn't copy the name for the method. There we go. API console post functions slash at 5-star products and query. It didn't work, so it couldn't quite figure out what I wanted. So let's tell it it didn't work and see if it can fix it. So this code didn't work. It returned an empty array. Let's try to tell it why that could be. What I was expecting is that into here it would actually, this should work, but anyways, let's try to see if it can fix it by itself. Where I expected an array containing products that have 5-star reviews. See if it can fix it. So deploy the new one. Let's refresh, see how it looks. All right, I see a problem already. It created 2 cloud codes with the exact same name. This is not allowed. So if I go to the logs, it will probably have some, some breaks in here. I'll fix this myself because I don't know if the plugin can actually delete code, and this might be the issue. So I'll delete the old one and redeploy, and let's see if it worked this time. There you go. I believe it didn't delete the old one by design because we don't really want Cloud Code to just go in there and delete code that it's not supposed to. So it's better to have a Cloud Code appended that does not work because it has the same name instead of deleting a function that you already have and for some reason it decided to choose the same name. So post functions slash function name and send query. And there you go. We have PlayStation 5, Harry Potter book, hammer, running shoes, and iPhone. 5 products with 5-star reviews. So it worked on the second attempt. Now I see we're almost in time of finishing the webinar, but there is something really cool I wanted to share with you guys. So those of you who can stay with it would be awesome. So the last version of the plugin is already able to create the front end as well and to host it in Back4App. And I tested this a few times. It worked most of those times, and we should try to create one right now. So back to ChatGPT. Let's give it once again positive feedback. This worked. Thank you. Now let's create a front end website to consume this app. Now, I want to get very simple here. Let's start with a simple drop down where I can select the categories. And let's try to make it more complex as we go. Please create a HTML page that has a select HTML control listing the categories. All categories should be listed into this drop-down. I think this is information enough. Let's see how it handles it. Now, this has two interesting sides. In order for a website to be hosted in Back4App, you need to publish the HTML file correctly linked to your application. So it must implement the parse SDK in JavaScript with the correct app ID and JavaScript key. But also, you need to enable the web hosting in Back4App so Back4App knows where your HTML file is and a domain for you to serve that website. Let's see if it's smart enough to do it all with just one instruction.
Alex, in the meantime, excuse me, we have a couple more questions here. We have questions from Vander, and he's asking, if I have a main app with several mini apps inside of it, for example, payment, chat, data transfer, appointments, and etc., like each page handling a totally different thing, then Cloud Code can run smoothly and not hang. So instead of running all pages inside the device, then app on the device will be like a dump page collecting data for server processing.
Well, yes, but you seem to be vendor very don't market sensor. I was reading. I can read it on the other window. It's okay. So
Yeah, there's another window where you can see it.
A very specific use case. You want to do payments, chat, data transfer, appointments, and other things into the same app, which might or might not be a good strategy. I tell this because, once again, I work here for a long time. I've seen many people trying to create one app that does it all, and it's usually not a very good idea. You want this to be broken into perhaps multiple apps that connect to the same database, so have the same data spread among multiple apps. Because many times, for instance, if you have an app that takes way too many resources, let's say your chat app among all these ones that you have is very popular and takes a lot of resources, the performance of your whole apps, of all your apps, will be impacted by this one app taking resources from the other ones so we can run faster. Now, if you have multiple apps connected to the same database, then you can have all the apps running together without compromising performance from each app to another app, even if one starts eating too much resource. And the data behind all those will be the same. So if you have a very specific use case where you want to do such mini apps connected to the same database, perhaps having multiple apps is a better strategy than having one full app and then mini apps inside it. Now, we probably need to discuss this a little further so I can have more detail on what you're trying to achieve. But it really does not seem to be the ideal situation to have one big app with multiple mini apps inside it. It's ideal to have multiple apps connected to the same database. And then the last part that you asked, having a dump page on the front end collecting data for server processing. This is correct. So the front end should, most of the times, only execute back end code and display the results in a beautiful way for your end users. And it seems my ChatGPT died for some reason. It just disappeared with all my prompts. What? Now, what happened here? Let's see if something changed. No, the index HTML file is still the same. So we didn't run. Now, where is my history? Let's try to create a new chat, see what happened. So list all classes in my e-commerce app in Back4App. This seems to be a ChatGPT problem because the whole history was lost. But don't worry, I have a plugin to manage this, so we have the history for the GIST to be published later on.
Yeah, I don't know if it happened to you, but earlier today I was running some tests on ChatGPT and it kept crashing on me too. And then I got the warning, for the orange warning on ChatGPT saying that there were experiencing instabilities.
Yeah, it happens from time to time. They do tend to publish updates on their infrastructure in the middle of the day without any announcement. But oh, there you go. It's not lost. It was just not showing. Now, will this finish or will this time out? I think I'm going to ask it to generate again because this probably died somehow. There we go. Seems better now. So I can see from here it already used the parse SDK and it appended the app ID and the JavaScript key. And remember, guys, exposing your app ID and JavaScript key into the front end is not a problem. Parse was designed to be done like this. So a lot of you ask me, hey, isn't it a problem to have my key exposed? No, it's not, because the key is not part of the real security behind Parse. The real security is done by implementing ACL or access control lists or CLPs, class level permissions, into your app. The key is just for identifying your app among other apps. Of course, if you can protect it, it is better, but you don't really have to protect the app ID and the JavaScript key. The only key you need to protect at all times is the master key, because with the master key you can change the other keys. But besides that, parse was made to expose the JavaScript key without any problems. So it created an HTML page, mistakenly include the wrong initialization code, so it's going to try to fix it. Let's see if it will be able to. And I can see it created a Back4A.app domain, so it probably correctly enabled the web hosting and created a domain automatically for me. So those were manual interactions that you had to do before the plugin. But if I click this button, it should lead me to the website and render it correctly. So let's try it out. There we go. Select a product category. And here are my categories. So it's correctly connecting to my database. And this is hosted in Back4App. And as always, for free. You don't have to pay to host a website. You just publish it to Back4App. You have a Back4App subdomain, and you can publish your content in here and connect directly to your app and also to your cloud code. Now, this just seems a little ugly to me. Let's try to use some Bootstrap and see if it can implement Bootstrap and make it more beautiful. So this looks really good. Let's make it look more beautiful. Please implement Bootstrap into this website in a way it looks clean and professional. Now, I never tried this one before. Let's see if it works. I see it took the bootstrap from bootstrap CDN. So even if it doesn't work, at least we will have bootstrap implemented. Okay, it was successfully deployed. Let's see if it looks more beautiful. There you go. It looks much better now. Now, I could probably keep going on and ask it to list the products that belong to a certain category, or perhaps tell it to use the colors that I want for my company. And it will probably work even if it's not on the first time. But as you can see, the plugin is very, very flexible. And once again, if you can open multiple tabs and ask different tasks that, of course, don't interlap with each other, this can save you a lot of time because you can specify multiple tasks and go take a coffee. When you come back, everything will be done for you. So the plugin is smart. It's very easy to use. You can achieve practically anything that you want only by using human language. I really recommend that you try out the plugin. Get your OpenAI account, install the plugin with Back4App because you'll be amazed on how good this is. And I think this is pretty much what I have to show for today, Gus. What do you think?
Perfect. No, that's great, Alex. And the best part is that ChatGPT behaved quite well. We didn't have a lot of catastrophic errors like we did once. So we have a couple of questions. We have one more here asking, we are a team of Flutter and native Android developers. Currently, we use PHP, HTML, CSS for apps admin panel website and also host it on a separate server. Is there any easier way to generate a whole CRUD operation site with ChatGPT? I know Back4App provides a default admin panel, but that doesn't allow us further customization as needed.
Well, you can use Back4App as your back, and this will accelerate your development by quite a lot because you don't have to validate data types and you can write cloud code as I showed you here today. But if you are familiar with PHP and if you want to keep with that technology, what you can do is to use the other Back4App product, which is the Back4App containers. You can spin up a container in there that runs PHP and connects to the Back4App backend. Then you can pretty much code anything that you want in PHP using the PHP SDK for parse. So you would be with your whole app, backend and front end, hosted into the same data center. So communication will be very easy, and you would benefit from both products. So Back4App containers, which is fast, scalable, free to use container as a service, and the Back4App backend as a service, which has our backend structure, cloud code, and all the features that you use in here. And both are compatible with the Back4App plugin for ChatGPT. Now, I didn't try much the Back4App ChatGPT plugin for the containers part, but I did a few series of videos in the YouTube channel where I use it to build the Docker files that I host into the containers. So pretty much all you have to do is to have a GitHub account, create your Docker file in there, and ask the Back4App plugin for ChatGPT and or ChatGPT by itself to create the Docker file to host your PHP application for you. Once it's running and works, all you have to do is to publish it to the Back4App containers app, it will automatically upload and run and connect to the back end, so you're good to go. So we have a solution that works for your whole use case. All you have to do is to try it out.
All right, perfect. I don't know if we have time for a couple more questions, Alex, as we already went 27 minutes past our time. But vendor asked again, something like WeChat that started with a chat and later added payment, tickets, and etc. So that's the type of app that they're building.
All right, so vendor, I really recommend that you get multiple apps, one for payments, one for tickets, one for chat, but all those connecting to the same database. You end up with more separation of your code, so your code won't look too overcrowded with code that does a lot of stuff. So every app will do its job, but in the very end, all those will connect to the same database. So every single app will have access to what other apps stored. So I think it is the best way to go. Now, if you want to go further on this, perhaps having a call with me, just schedule a call on my Calendly or send me an email at alex@back4app.com. We can schedule this and try to understand better what you're trying to achieve and the better strategy for that. Right?
All right, perfect. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining us. Alex, thank you very much for your guidance and walkthrough. Again, it was awesome getting to talk to some of you guys through the chat. Awesome to get the email questions from you guys and all of the comments. I hope to see you guys again very soon. And once again, be on the lookout for the new launch on Product Hunt. And I'm also going to send you guys an email with the links for our Product Hunt, for the guest with all the prompts, and the recording of the DevTalk.
Yeah, and I see we have one last question from Samuel Kipasegna. I hope I spelled
Okay.
it right. It is possible that my question has already been addressed, but I'm interested in inquiring about the known limitations of the plugin. Specifically, in what scenarios or projects could you suggest that a beginner, not apprentice, a completely perfect outcome from the plugin? Well, I think the best answer I can give for this question is to try it out and be open to talk to ChatGPT and to the plugin. So don't expect very good results from one big prompt that you just put in there and get the perfect result out. Try to guide it, be specific on your instructions, and ask it to correct every time it got a answer that does not fit your needs. But on the other hand, be always keep giving it positive feedback when it goes right, and try to guide it to achieve what you want. So there is no really limitations on the plugin or on ChatGPT, but most of the times, if you don't specify exactly what you want, it will try to assume. And when it tries to assume, it might end up not giving you what you wanted. So I think this is the best way to go. All right.
All right. Perfect. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for joining, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and next month we'll have another one.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye bye.